Circuit Court Division CRE in Fort Duval County in the state of Florida is now in session. Honorable Judge Tatiana Salvador is now presiding. There will be no talking in this courtroom and no outbursts. Please ensure your cell phones are completely turned off at this time. You may be seated.
All right, thank you. Let's bring out Mr. Armstrong, please. All right, we're here in the matter of the state of Florida versus Bursey Armstrong. It is case number 2022 CF 7251. And we're here for a sentencing hearing following the jury trial's findings of guilt as to counts 1 and 2 as charged in the information that was on July 17 of 2024. The defendant is now present with his counsel as our counsel for the state. Before we begin, however, the court did receive the motion for new trial filed by the defense, and we must address that first. That was filed today. So, Mr. Fletcher, it is your motion. Any additional argument?
There's no additional argument.
Okay. Any response from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Having reviewed the motion and, of course, having sat through the jury trial, at this time the motion for new trial shall be denied. All right. Then, as he was entitled to it, the court did order a pre-sentence investigation report for Mr. Armstrong. Have both sides had an opportunity to receive and review that report?
The state has.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let me begin with the state and first ask if there's any corrections, additions, or deletions to the PSI.
There is, Your Honor. It's called page 2, so it's the top is titled pre-sentence investigation. The degree of the crimes listed are first-degree felonies, and these were enhanced to a life felony. So I would ask that the PSI be changed to correct degree, which is life felony. And it also says that the minimum mandatory is life. It's true that both counts can be a life minimum mandatory, but it's 25 years up to life. So then just that minor correction. As to page 3, although it does correctly state under legal status that he was found guilty, below that it says plea agreed upon, and then it says guilty. And I would just suggest that be stricken through since this was not a plea.
I'm sorry, where is that?
On page 3, under legal status, it goes down, it says number of counts waived, and it says plea agreed upon. And of course, this wasn't a plea.
Correct.
As to page 6, and again, a minor correction, but under marital history, it says children, none. But then below that, it lists his 3 children. So obviously, it's not minus 3. And then the last one would be as to page 8, and it lists restitution at none, and the state does have a restitution order prepared today. The Victims' Crime Compensation Fund did reimburse Ms. Young for funeral expenses at $7,500, and that would be the only corrections that the state would have.
So that's $7,500 to the Victims' Crimes Compensation Trust Fund?
Correct, and I have a restitution order that I can present to the court at the appropriate time.
All right, thank you. I'm making those changes now to the PSI. All right, any corrections, additions, or deletions from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. And I have reviewed the PSI in its entirety, so with that, we'll begin in the sentencing hearing. Any witnesses or evidence that the defendant wishes to present?
Judge, I do have 2 witnesses that would like to make a short statement on behalf of Mr. Armstrong.
Okay, you can call one up at a time. They can be sworn and have seen the witness stand.
Linda Thompson.
All right, Ms. Thompson, if you'll come forward.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, my name is Linda Love. Are you calling Love or Thompson?
Linda Love.
All right, Ms. Love, and if you'll come forward and be sworn.
Right up here, ma'am.
Right up here.
If you'll stand right here, please.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm testimony you give be the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Is that right?
I do, so help me God.
And have a seat for witnesses.
Okay, thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Love, could you state your full name for the record, please?
I'm sorry.
Could you state your full name for the record?
My full name is Linda Love.
And how do you know Mr. Armstrong?
I don't.
Okay, but you wanted to make a statement on his behalf today.
Yes, a statement that his mother, because of illness, could not attend.
Okay, so you're reading it on behalf of his
Yes,
mother?
I'm ready.
Okay, and that's prepared in writing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Your Honor, may she proceed to read that?
Yes, has that been provided to the state?
It has not been, I have no objection.
No objection, all right. And let me just ask you, Ms. Love, we have a tendency to go fast when we read. However, the court reporter needs to take down what you're saying accurately, so if you will just be sure to speak loudly, clearly, and slowly.
I will.
And if you will just sit up a little closer to the microphone. Thank you. And can we have everyone to please turn off all of their electronic devices? All right, thank you very much. Go ahead, ma'am.
August 22nd, 2024. So sorry I cannot be there. My body has denied me, but my spirit is with you all. Mom. To my beautiful and loving son, praise be to the Most High God for your life and for the lives of your children, Joshua, BJ, and Bailey. Exodus 34:7. He visits the sins of the father on the sons. Did the Lord not end the line of King Saul and the prophet Eli by his word? You have been found guilty, though I love you. This act is an abomination before man and God. Our family is devastated. I am shattered, for I too love Tasheka. I honor the lives of my grandchildren. Your siblings are inconsolable. Your grandparents, who are almost 90 years old, are gutted. They wanted to come to support you, but oh, how they wanted to chastise you. We will never see wrong as righteousness. The Youngs are without their daughter, children without their mother. I have cried myself until whales without water form beneath my eyes. I feel their pain. I honor them for loving and caring for our grandchildren. I long to gaze upon them one day and hug them. I pray for them and dream of them, that one day we may be united with them. Repent, my son, for the following reasons. Sin bears a heavy weight in the land, and is a lodestone that will cast you down unto perdition. Confess this wickedness, if not for you, but for all of us that love you. My life has been threatened, the house vandalized. I go out and spray paint the profound words, God forbid. Your son, Joshua, was poisoned by Halloween candy and lost unconsciousness for 24 hours. But God, Joshua was just involved in a house fire where his grandmother's home was utterly guttered. He and his family walked away unscathed, the mercy of God. BJ, your beloved, the concerns have already been communicated to both you and his mother, and most recently his grandmother, regarding the generational curses of that iniquity. The enemy is afoot, but I have cast him down by the blood of the Lamb. Your daughter, Bailey, your pride, has no covering. Every woman, girl, etc. needs covering. I submit to the only true God to cover her life, her decisions, and her future steps. We live in a Babylon where evil will see her as prey. Jerome, live the rest of your days dwelling in the secret place of the Almighty. Lift up your seed to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Pray, weep, and toil for them in truth and spirit. Repent and reclaim your sound mind. The evil one shall not overshadow you. The promises of God cast those thoughts down that are affirming in your mind. Continue to command the voices to leave you in the mighty name of Jesus, lest another curse be levied against the innocent, your children, Joshua, BJ, and Balin. The truth is a powerful weapon. Use it, confess it, and love it. All of us go through rough times and seasons when we wonder if the Holy One of Israel is there. The odds of seemingly being stacked up against us, we make pain and mourning the center of our lives. They become a comfort instead of our God. In Psalms 119:71, King David says, "It is good for me that I have been afflicted, that I might learn your statutes." I ask God, is this affliction good from a human perspective? My God is torn asunder. I wail in quiet places. I question everything about my existence. Why, oh God? Mindless torture, feelings of inadequacy, where I can barely recognize myself. Hide me in the secret place and restore my mind, Jesus. I have learned that afflictions grow character. They carve beneath pain and separate the wheat from the tares. It is on the threshing floor where all hate, wickedness, vile intentions, and unclean intentions are placed in the fire. It is also where the wheat is gathered unto holiness. Those that have prayed, hoped for, loved, for love is greater than all others. That love must be a copy that hugs opposing sides to righteousness, for separation is the weapon of the enemy. And have we not all suffered enough for him that I will give no name? The adversary of God's people, open your eyes, O children of Judah. Blow the horns and return to righteousness through repentance, grace, forgiveness, and peace. I also ask myself as a Christian and a mother of the accused, why God? I cannot bear this thing. He was raised in the fear and admonition of you. O Holy One, as I bore down and birthed him, so shall I bear this. I shall bear this as a testimony to your goodness. I shall bear this as a beacon for my grandchildren. I shall bear this because you are sovereign and you, O God, make no mistakes. My God says in his word that he will never leave me nor forsake me. This includes you, Olivia. And we are overcomers by the perfect, precious blood of the Lamb. You see, as I have grown in age and my spiritual maturity, my need for Jesus has also increased. My need to be with him has increased. My need for him to stand by me has increased. I tried doing things on my own, and I have always been met with the harshest of realities. That is, it's impossible to win without the Lord on my side. His word is not just for my son, for the court, all families. It is for the wicked world that operates with sleight of hand as though it is righteous. It is for the enemy who exalts himself above the Holy One. It is for the sons of man that the wicked are judged with iniquity, for they are delusional, who try to exalt themselves above God. May God be God. The children need a village that includes prayer warriors, for the iniquity is great. It is not, nor shall it ever be, greater than our God. Bind, loose, and free the seed. They are my blood, and I speak in authority with that no weapon formed against them shall prosper. You can keep me from your village, but my prayers by the Holy Spirit will encamp in your home, in your car, upon you and your grandchildren. Olivia, I speak peace and abundance to you and our families. Final word, return to Christ as though your life depended on it, son. because it does. Forgive yourself and others. Repent, for the day is nigh.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your Honor, I'd like to add something if I might. I don't have a relationship with any one member in this court. I don't know the accused. I don't know their families. I don't know anyone here. I was asked about 3 hours ago to read this letter because a friend of mine could not be here.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. All right, Mr. Fletcher, you may call your next witness.
Brittany Thompson.
Ms. Thompson.
Stand here, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm testimony you give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Thompson, may I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson, can you state your full name for the record, please?
It's Brittany Tompkins.
Tompkins. And Ms. Tompkins, how do you know Bursey Armstrong?
We are first cousins. Our moms are sisters
So you've known him for a very long time.
since he was born.
What would you like to tell the court today about Mr. Armstrong?
I don't really look at him when I talk to him. Just, we all are really devastated with everything that, has happened. The last time I saw you, Jerome, was that grown, in 2021. And, physically saw you, even though we communicated, but that was the last time I saw you. And, everybody was devastated then. And this, added to that. And we just still in a shock, because you didn't come from this. We weren't raised like this. We was raised in church. We graduated from high school, went out to college, playing ball, good job, good family. We was raising your kids. Everybody had issues here and there. That's normal, that's life. But, our family has never experienced anything like this before, ever. Not even to this extent, like just from 0 to 100, And I know how you feel. I can feel your heart. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing you, I can feel your heart. And I know nothing that we can say or do to undo what you did or what happened. We don't know, still all the details of what happened. But, it don't change how us as a family still feel about you. We still love you. We know that forgiveness can only come from God. It can only come from above, and you know that too. So I hope that you've been praying and asking for forgiveness, because it's been unbearable. It's really been unbearable, and your mom, it's been really bad, Bursey. But I pray that some type of mercy will be upon, your life. One mistake doesn't take away everything, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know that person when the situation happened. Like, we don't know who that person is, because again, we was raised in church. Like, church, basically Monday through Friday. Always in church, always the love of God, love of Jesus Christ. Like, I've never seen you even have a fight, have a temper tantrum. Like, I've never seen you act like that. Like, ever, with your friends, with family, with, we've gone on family vacations together. You know, my mom has her Christmas party every year. We see each other at our family events. You've never been a troublemaker, like never, never. So to be here, for you to be here, is just shocking, you know?
Ms. Tompkins, you want the court to show some mercy, right?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Judge, that's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any cross?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tompkins. Any other evidence or witnesses you wish to present?
No, Your Honor.
All right, State, do you have any evidence or witnesses you wish to present?
Judge, I have victim impact statements.
Okay, you may call your first.
The first one would be Flora Bonner. Is she in?
Laura Bonner.
She's not here. Judge, she is not here, if I may read that one. So this is Flora, Flora, Bonner, Bonner. And it states, Judge Salvador, the murder of my niece, Tasheka Young, was very hurtful and still is. Bursey Armstrong took the lives of 2 people, Tasheka and her unborn baby that she was carrying. Tasheka was a very talented young person and is missed so very much. And so that would be her statement. The next one would be Anthony Cobb.
Can I just be certain, were these provided to the defense?
They were not, I just got them literally before court.
Okay.
But I reviewed them, and like, for example, the last letter, I omitted the last line.
Okay.
So I
I
know.
found myself in the same position, Judge, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you then.
And Mr. Cobb?
And I'm sorry, who?
This is Anthony, Anthony, T, the letter T initial, and then Cobb, Cobb.
All right, sir, if you'll come forward then.
You can go up to the podium here, sir.
And Judge Alderson's statement. That's okay. And if you could stand in front of the microphone and speak up so the court can hear you.
Okay. Tasheka Renee Young's life and her unborn child's life was taken too soon by murder. Tasheka leaves to mourn forever a handsome young son, Bursey III, and a beautiful young daughter, Bailey. Their lives will be impacted by her murder forever with the loss of their mommy, Tasheka. Tasheke's life was fun-filled, loving, kind, and compassionate for herself, parents, family, friends, and most of all, her children. Tasheka would not get the opportunity to experience the growth of what life has to offer for her children. Love always and forever, Cousin Anthony T. Cobb.
Judge, the next one is Deborah Blair Crawford. And judges, she's approaching, her name is Deborah, Deborah, Blair, Blair, hyphen, Crawford, Crawford.
Thank you.
If you'll speak into the microphone so everyone can hear you.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon.
Judge Tana Salvador. I am a cousin to Olivia A. Young, mother of murdered victim Tasheka Young and her unborn child, and grandmother to her 2 children, Bursey Jerome Armstrong and Bailey Marie Armstrong. At the time of this traumatic and horrific tragedy, I, as well as other family members and loved ones, have supported Olivia Young as she cares for the 2 grandchildren, Bursey and Bailey, with all the love and nurturing possible. The convicted contacted Olivia Young after doing what he did to ask, have you talked to Tasheka? While all along knowing what he had done, and the children witnessed this tragedy and were left at the scene for 10 to 12 hours until her grandmother, Olivia Young, found them Olivia Young was the mother who found her daughter. The shock, hurt, and pain from seeing this tragedy was overwhelming. Words cannot express the emotions and tears that day and the days ahead. Tasheka was an only child of Olivia and Ralph Young. She was loved by her parents and grew up to be a beautiful, well-educated woman. She was in the process of changing her profession from DJ to teaching. This was to allow more time, quality time with her children. Those who knew Tasheka only have good and wonderful things to say about her, that she was loving and the warmth of her personality. Olivia Young has continuously talked to her grandchildren to tell them Mommy is in heaven. Her grandson, Bursey, at 3 years old, would tell her, Daddy killed Mommy. Knowing this to be true, as witnessing the tragedy, Olivia has to remain strong, be positive, to love and nurture her grandchildren. Bailey was 1 year old at the time. In her own little way, she misses her mommy and could never not verbalize at that time based on her age. She stayed under her grandmother at all times, only at the time calling her Mima. Only Mima she would go to and let her hold her. No one could touch her. Bursey is in counseling since this tragedy. He goes once a week. There have been times when he goes into his room and cries and prays. And when asked what's going on, I miss my mommy. Olivia continues to communicate with Bursey and Bailey to ensure some sense of normalcy. As a result, they have asked to go to the grave site of their mommy, and they go continuously. When there are questions from our grandchildren, they are addressed with love and patience. Olivia Young continues to ensure a healthy and normal life for her grandchildren. She was granted temporary custody of them on August 2nd, 2023, now raising Bursey and Bailey as her own. They each continue to go to their same daycare facility for toddler activities, socialization skills, with peers and structure. Bursey now attends public school as of August 12, 2024, in kindergarten. They are consistently in church on Sunday for Sunday school and worship service to receive spiritual growth and knowledge. Whenever the opportunity arises, they are involved in events, activities, and are going places to have fun and enjoy life. This requires a lot of responsibility then and now as they grow older. Through the love and grace of God, Olivia is strengthened day by day. She has the love and support of family, church, friends, and neighbors. In addition to this tragic death due to medical reasons, Olivia Young lost her husband, Tasheka's father, on April 23rd, 2024. So in response to all of this, it's a lot of hurt, it's a lot of pain. But again, through the grace of God, we'll be strengthened.
Thank you.
Lori Pitts, is she here or she wants me to read it? She's here, okay. And Judge, that is Lorimipitts. Judge, because it was emailed to me, and it's very small print, I kids. I would like to first start off saying that no one won, because in a case such as this, there are no winners. To the Young family, your loss is your loss is one that can never be replaced. Nothing can ever fill that void you will always live with from day to day. To the Armstrong family, your journey is just beginning as you will endure a loss, but in a different way. To the, and then we'll skip down, it takes a village to raise children, and the Young family has that, and more than just looking around. And the rest of it, I've omitted just because it talks about punishment. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Judge, next is Veronica Smith. Is she here? Then I will read this, Judge. And this is Veronica, Veronica Smith, Smith. Judge Salvador, this is the most hurtful letter I've ever had to write. My cousin, Tasheka Young, and her unborn child was taken away from our lives for no reason. She was a professional and loving person. I can never hug her again and tell her I love her. Next is Denise Wilson. And Judge, there's one more after that.
Okay.
And then that will be it. And judges, she's approaching. Denise is Denise and Wilson is Wilson.
My name is Denise Wilson. My sister is Olivia Young. My niece Tasheka Young was a wonderful young lady. Tasheka was kind, considerate. She had a warm heart. I will never forget her visits to the house. She had a smile that would light up a room. She was a great mom to her children. If you ever needed her for anything, she would be there for you. Tasheka has been missed by her family and friends. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of her. Tasheka's life was taken from her too soon. She wasn't able to live a full life because Bursey Armstrong Jr. took her away from us. This hatred, his hatred was so horrible that he killed her and her unborn child. He also took their kids, left them without their mother.
And Ms. Young? And Judge Ms. Young is approaching again for the record as Olivia, Olivia, Young, Young.
Judge Salvador, I am Olivia A. Young, mother of the murdered Tasheka Young, and the grandmother of her two children, Bursey Jerome Armstrong III and Bailey Marie Armstrong. It has been very difficult to write this victim impact statement because my husband, Ralph Young, and Tasheka's father passed away April 23rd, 2024. The trial, and now to prepare this statement, I am receiving painful and horrifying tragedy, which took the life of my daughter and her unborn child. The life-altering occurrence has been traumatically affected by two grandchildren, me, her father, and that caused a lot of my husband's problem. He could not get over our daughter that was murdered. Every day, he would grab my hand and we would just cry when the children wasn't around. This really took my husband's life. Family members, loved ones, and friends. Tasheka was a loving daughter and mother and was loved by so many. She was my husband and I only child and was truly a gift from God. as was present during the trial, I received communication from Bursey Armstrong on July 23rd, 2022. He called, the phone rang, and I looked at the phone, looked at my husband, and I said, hello? He said, Ms. Young, have you heard from Tasheka? I'm like, no. He said, when you hear from Tasheka, tell Tasheka to call me. I hung up the phone. I looked at my husband, and I said, Ralph, let's go. I said, something is wrong. He has never called me to ask me about Tasheka. I grabbed the keys, my husband, we was literally running out the door, got in the car, and went to her apartment. When I got to her apartment, it was beat. The door was just butchered. And I put the key, but the door just opened. It literally opened. Okay. Upon arrival to Tasheka's residence, because of, yes, so I ran to the bathroom and called out her name. Then I ran to her bedroom. And when I ran to her bedroom, oh Lord, she was on the floor. Her whole body was as black as your outfit, and she was just as light as you. Everything was covered, and my baby girl barely was holding her mother's bloody hand. She was just holding the hand. And Bursey was sitting in the bed shaking like a leaf on a tree, just shaking. Just shaking. When they looked at me, they're like, oh my God, you saved us. They ran and just grabbed me, a handful of blood soaking wet and everything. They were just, it was terrible. And I tried to resuscitate my daughter, but you could look at her. She had gotten so big, she was that, she had swollen so large. And I called 911 and I was trying to resuscitate. She was gone. She was hard as a rock. She was just hard. And the babies just started crying and bursted. He said, Mama, Daddy killed Mommy. And I said, what? Daddy killed Mommy.
Can you remind me how old were the children at that time?
One, Bailey was 1 going on 2, and Bursey was 2 going on 3. And they were just shocked. They were just horrified and was in there, and blood was everywhere, and barely blood was all over her, and she was just holding her mom's hand like this, y'all. She was holding her mama's hand. She was holding her mama's hand. Lord have mercy, I'll never forget. Not a day goes by that I don't forget my only child. I don't forget it. It's in my head that he murdered Tasheka in front of his kids and left the kids there. Oh my God, who does that? Who does that? Who does that? Bursey and Bailey would always call me Mom. But now they call me Mommy. They call me Mommy. This change occurred by them on their own. I tragically lost my child on July 23rd, 2022. And now I raise my 2 grandchildren as my own. This requires a lot of responsibility then and now as they get older. Through the love and grace of God,
you are full of it.
I am strengthened day by day.
All right.
I am almost and also thankful to have the love and support of family, my church members, my friends, and my neighbors.
There's no love in it.
Okay, excuse me. We're going to do this in order. I don't want to hear anything from the gallery.
To God be the glory.
There's
Because
no
you
love
need
in it.
God.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mr. Armstrong. opportunity, but right now we are hearing from Ms. Young. Okay, this is an orderly courtroom. We are not going to be out of order.
My apologies, Judge.
All right.
And that was the end of her statement, and that is the end of the victim impact statement.
All right, thank you very much. Again, I need everyone to maintain, I know this is very hard and emotional for many people on both sides, but we're going to maintain our professional and proper decorum in this court of law. Thank you all very much. Mr. Fletcher, does your client wish to address the court, or is there anything else you wish to present on his behalf?
Judge, he does not wish to speak.
Okay. All right, then I will hear argument first from the defense.
Judge, Mr. Armstrong stands before the court without ever having been convicted of anything other than this. So he's got no prior record. The PSI indicates he had a very good education. He's had good jobs his entire life. You can tell he was raised correctly by listening to the statement that his mother asked a friend to read to the court. In that statement, she just reflects on how horrible this is, and she holds Mr. Armstrong accountable for his actions. I would just ask that the court, what I remember hearing from Ms. Tompkins is a request for some form of mercy in the court sentence. And I would ask the court not sentence him to 2 life sentences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll hear from the state.
Your Honor, if I may approach, and I've given a copy of the guidelines to defense, and then I've got the victim information form and the restitution order that we spoke of. Judge, one, again, although I would say it's a correction to the PSI, I would just make note of something that is in the PSI. Under the defendant's statements, out of the blue now we're hearing some very self-serving statements made from that PSI talking about hallucinations and delusions and how on the day of the crime he was hearing voices. This has never been raised in 2 years of this case pending. And the court will recall from his interview, nothing in that interview reflects anything like that. To the contrary, that interview was very manipulative, deceitful, cunning. So I would ask the court to disregard the self-serving statements in the PSI by the defendant about anything related to mental health issues which have not been presented to this court. And again, just going to that, again, there was 2 letters written to the court, one dated May of 2023 and one dated July 8th of 2024. And again, when you read through those letters, which are part of the record, his thoughts are very coherent, very organized. He's discussing all kinds of things like his philanthropic activities. He's discussing his professional life. There's absolutely nothing about mental health issues. And the one dated July 8th of 2024, which was written, according to him in the letter, after the final pretrial but before jury selection, again, nothing in there about mental health issues, simply him saying, I wanted a continuance, knowing it wasn't going to get to the court until after the trial. And none of that was mentioned at the start of the trial. As far as the criminal punishment code score sheet, he scores 39.15 years up to life. Both charges are life felonies with discharge and death. In addition to the life minimum mandatory that he is looking at for the discharge and the death, his score is over 363 points, which means the court could, in addition to the minimum mandatories, could have sentenced him to life and consecutive lives just based on the score that he had. Before I go into my recommendation of the sentences, first I'd point out as far as whether or not these 2 counts can be run consecutive, under Miller versus State, which is 2018 Westlaw 4784069, page 2, Florida 2018. And that case was actually a case heard before Judge Blas at the trial level. And the appellate court held that where during a single criminal episode there are multiple victims or multiple injuries to a single victim, consecutive sentences are permitted at the discretion of the court.
Are permitted.
Permitted.
Okay.
And in this case, you have Ms. Young, who was shot twice, so you have multiple injuries to one victim. And then, of course, you have the death of her unborn child, so you have two victims. So it's certainly permissible. And one other case that stands for that is Jackson versus State, and that's 273, 7th, 3rd, 1,103 at 1,108, and that's First DCA 2019. And that was actually a case held here before Judge Borrello at the trial level. And again, the appellate court held that consecutive sentences are permissible because multiple victims and a gun was fired. And again, we have two victims and a gun was fired. And that court clarified that multiple victims do not have to be shot, just injured. So although Ms. Young's unborn child was not actually shot with a bullet, the child was injured in that he or she did die from the injuries sustained to his or her mother. So as far as consecutive, certainly it is the court's discretion that the court can impose consecutive sentences. And I would just like to briefly just respond back to a couple of things that Ms. Tompkins said. She said, we do not know what happened that day, and I would say this court sat through this trial fairly recently, and based on the overwhelming unrefuted evidence, we know exactly what happened that day. I mean, Ms. Young was in her bed, asleep, with her children. This defendant broke through the door, shot her once, pulled her out of bed, put her on the floor, and then shot her a second time in the back as she's begging for her life. And then Ms. Tompkins said, well, one mistake does not take away everything. Well, it certainly did for the Young family. It took away their only child, and it took away the life of their unborn grandchild. So, based on the facts that this court heard in the trial, as to count one, and I would point out, as I'm sure this court still recalls, this was a very sad and a very horrific murder. As Ms. Young, Olivia Young pointed out, you know, those two children were in that apartment from 1:15 in the morning approximately when that first 911 call was made until 5:15 in the afternoon, 16 hours. That these children were left alone, 12 months and approximately 3 years, left to fend for themselves. They had no one to feed them, no one to change their diapers. All they did for the 16 hours was they could lay next to their dead mother, holding her hand, and the one on the bed with his baby blanket. So when you consider the facts as to count one, I would suggest that the appropriate sentence is a life sentence with the minimum mandatory life. And then as to count two, although it is discretionary, I would suggest that this defendant should be held accountable for the death of the unborn child. And although certainly he was found guilty, the court could give him life, but I think a concurrent sentence does not truly give the unborn child justice. So I would argue that for count two, it should be a life with a life minimum mandatory, and that should be consecutive to count one. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. And you have final word rebuttal, Mr. Fletcher.
Judge, I would just repeat what Ms. Tompkins said. I'd ask that the court show some mercy on Mr. Armstrong.
All right, then, Mr. Armstrong, if you'll come forward up to the podium, sir, for sentencing. So, Mr. Armstrong, I've considered obviously the facts as they came out during the trial, the jury's verdict, all the information contained in the pre-sentence investigation report, and the information that I've heard here today, along with the arguments of the attorneys. Let me just say a few words before I impose sentence, sir. And I will note that unlike many of the defendants that I see in this courtroom who come from broken families riddled with poverty, abuse, drug abuse, no education, you graduated from high school, went to college, played ball, as your cousin pointed out, had a good job, and have absolutely no criminal record prior to this incident. You are unlike most of the defendants that I see in this courtroom. As your cousin also pointed out, and as your mom did, you were raised right, raised in the church, raised to know right from wrong. But what occurred here, as your mother stated, this act was an abomination before man and God. You killed the mother of your children. You killed your unborn child. You took these 2 lives in the presence of your other 2 children, who now are left without a mother, and for all intents and purposes, without a father. They don't have that mother and father to raise them. Now they're being raised, luckily, by a loving family, Miss Young, and those that will love and support them and her in those endeavors. This truly is an awful, tragic, desperately sad situation. But it's not a mistake, and it's not, it was an act by you and for which you must be held accountable. This sentence will certainly not bring back Tasheka Jones or her unborn child, and it may not even provide the peace and closure that Miss Young's friends and family seek. I believe it was perhaps Ms. Pitts who said that in this case, both families have lost. Both families. No one's a winner. Everyone has lost here. Your family and Miss Young's family. I can only wish for Miss Young's friends and family that your good, happy, loving memories of Miss Young will provide you the peace and comfort that you may seek in the days ahead. It's not going to be provided to you by this sentence. That is not the purpose of sentencing. The purpose of sentencing is to hold those who commit crimes in the state of Florida accountable for their actions. And as such, Mr. Bursey Armstrong, I will sentence you as follows. As to counts 1 and 2, I will adjudicate you guilty of each count. And on each of counts 1 and 2, I am going to sentence you to life in prison with a life minimum mandatory, with credit for the 761 days that you have served, and those 2 sentences shall run consecutively. I will impose mandatory felony court costs of $518. I have entered the restitution order in the amount of $7,500 payable to the Victims' Crimes Compensation Trust Fund. Do you understand your 2 sentences?
Yes.
Now, you do maintain the right to appeal the judgments and sentences in these cases, and you have 30 days within which to do so. Would you like for me to appoint the Office of the Public Defender to represent you on appeal?
I'll speak with, yes, for right now, but I'll speak with you.
All right, then I will go ahead and do that, but otherwise, that will conclude this matter today. You understand?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Court is in recess.